Here's the brutal truth. Not everyone who treats you badly has a reason. Some people only need to see you getting stronger, happier, calmer, or harder to shake, and that alone is enough to make them want to pull you down. And if you do not see that clearly, you can waste years of your life apologizing for something that was never your fault in the first place. Have you ever been in a situation that made no sense? You did not start anything. You did not disrespect anyone. You did not cross a line. There was not even enough tension between you and that person to call it real conflict. And still, every time you are around them, you feel it. A cold layer in the air. A quiet distance. A kind of tension nobody says out loud, but somehow everybody can feel. They talk to other people just fine. They smile. They joke. They sound relaxed. But with you, something changes. Their tone gets shorter. Their energy gets flatter. Their body closes off. Their warmth disappears. Nobody says anything direct, but the room says enough. And the exhausting part is not even their attitude. It is what that attitude starts doing to your mind. You replay every conversation. You go back over every little detail. You start asking the same draining questions. Did I say something wrong? Did I accidentally offend them? Did I do something weird without noticing? Did I make them uncomfortable somehow? The more you think, the more tangled it gets. The more you search for an explanation, the easier it becomes to turn the whole thing against yourself. But here is what a lot of people miss. Some people do not dislike you because of what you did. They dislike the way they feel around you. That is the part nobody wants to hear, because it sounds unfair. And it is. But think about it. Sometimes your confidence exposes their insecurity. Sometimes your calm exposes their chaos. Sometimes your self-respect exposes how much they betray themselves. Sometimes the fact that you are liked, respected, or simply comfortable in your own skin hits a nerve they have been trying not to touch. That is why this kind of tension often feels so illogical. You can be kind, and they still stay cold. You can be polite, and they still stay guarded. You can try to keep things smooth, and they still do not open up. Because the real issue is not your behavior. The real issue is the war going on inside them. Now, to be clear, not everyone who is cold toward you hates you. Not everyone who pulls back envies you. Some people are tired. Some are dealing with private pain. Some are stressed, distracted, or emotionally shut down for reasons that have nothing to do with you. But when the pattern becomes consistent, selective, and strangely targeted, then it is time to stop gaslighting yourself. In this video, we are going straight into 5 very clear signs of the kind of person who seems to hate you for no real reason. Not so you can become bitter. Not so you can label everybody. Not so you can walk around assuming every weird vibe is jealousy. But so you can stop blaming yourself, stop shrinking yourself, stop trying to earn softness from people who are committed to staying hard toward you, and start seeing what is actually happening. Because once you see it clearly, something important shifts. You stop letting their energy drive your emotions. You stop asking yourself over and over where you went wrong, and you stop handing your worth to people who are still drowning in their own unresolved mess. If you have ever met someone who was cold to you for no clear reason, comment 1 below. And now let's start with the clearest sign of all. This is usually the easiest sign to spot. And at the same time, it is the one that messes with your head the most. Because you watch them with other people, and they seem completely normal. They laugh. They ask questions. They keep the conversation going. They sound friendly. They look open. Everything seems easy. Then you walk in, and the energy shifts. The smile drops. The answers get shorter. The tone goes flat. The warmth is gone. Sometimes they are standing there talking just fine, but the second you step closer, they look away, check their phone, turn towards someone else, or suddenly remember they need to leave. No one insults you. No one starts a fight. No one says anything you can point to, but you feel it anyway. You are not welcome here. And this is where a lot of people start lying to themselves. Maybe they're just tired. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe it's nothing. But if it keeps happening, while they stay perfectly warm with everybody else, then it is not random. That is not mood. That is not coincidence. That is selective coldness. And the important thing is this, that coldness is not just about keeping their distance from you. It is also about making you feel out of sync with the room. It is silent social pressure. They do not have to attack you. They do not have to say anything rude. They do not have to create drama. They just have to make you feel like the extra person, the awkward one, the one who somehow does not fit the flow. Why? Because if they treated you warmly the way they treat everyone else, they would have to admit something they do not want to admit. That you belong there too, that you matter too, that your presence carries weight too. And sometimes that is exactly what they do not want to give you. Not because you lack value, but because denying that value makes them feel more comfortable. Think about it. Some people do not know how to deal with feeling threatened, so they do not rise. They reduce. They do not regulate themselves. They try to make the other person feel smaller. They are not steady enough to stand tall in someone else's presence, so they make the atmosphere around that person feel tighter, colder, and harder to breathe in. And if you do not understand what is happening, you will go in the wrong direction. You will try to be nicer, sweeter, safer, more agreeable, more harmless. You will work overtime just to prove you are not a threat. That is where people get trapped, because you cannot win by begging for warmth from someone who needs you to feel off balance so they can feel okay. So when you see this sign, do not chase the warmth. Just clock the pattern. This person is not cold to the whole world. They are cold specifically to me. And when coldness becomes that selective, that repeated, and that consistent, it usually says more about their inner state than it does about your worth. But that is only the first layer, because when that energy becomes more deliberate, it starts showing up in a deeper way. If the first sign makes you feel excluded, this one goes a step further. It makes you feel erased. You speak, and they do not really look at you. Their eyes drift somewhere else. They check their phone. They look over your shoulder. They scan the room. Anywhere but you. And the strange part is, they know how to make eye contact with everybody else. They know how to listen when they want to. They know how to signal presence when the person in front of them matters to them. But when you speak, that signal disappears. A lot of people brush this off like it is a small detail. It is not. Eye contact is one of the most basic forms of recognition. It says, I see you. I'm here. What you're saying matters enough for me to stay with you. So when someone repeatedly pulls that away from you, they are not just being rude. They are pulling back a very basic form of respect. But it usually does not stop there. In work settings, group conversations, team environments, or any space where ideas matter, this type of person often has another move that is even more revealing. They ignore what you say. You offer an idea. Nothing. No response. No acknowledgement. They change the subject or keep talking like you never opened your mouth. Then a few minutes later, somebody else says almost the exact same thing, and suddenly they light up. That's smart. Exactly. Yeah, let's do that. And you are sitting there thinking, I just said that. This is one of the most frustrating forms of social disrespect because it is so subtle. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is not always obvious to the people around you, but the person living through it feels it instantly. And the damage does not stay in that moment. It gets in your head. Maybe I don't explain myself well. Maybe my ideas aren't strong enough. Maybe I don't carry enough weight. Maybe I'm just not someone people really listen to. And if that keeps happening, you start pulling back before anyone even dismisses you. You talk less, offer less, risk less, show less. Little by little, you start deleting yourself from rooms where you had every right to be fully present. That is the dangerous part, because the real goal of this behavior is not just to ignore your ideas, it is to wear down your sense of value from the inside. If they acknowledge you, then they have to admit that your mind is sharp, your presence matters, and your voice carries weight. And some people cannot handle that. So they act like your value is not there at all. If you have ever felt like you were being erased from a room while you were still standing in it, comment one below. And remember this, someone refusing to recognize your value does not mean your value is not real. A lot of the time, it means they cannot stand what it would cost them emotionally to admit it. And when they cannot erase you directly, some people move to the next move. They start trying to reduce your value in other people's eyes too. This is where it gets more dangerous. Because now the issue is no longer just between you and them. Now it starts leaking into the space around you. Now it starts touching your reputation. Now it starts shaping how other people feel when your name comes up. And that is exactly why this sign matters. People who hate you for no real reason usually do not have enough truth to confront you directly. They cannot stand in front of other people and clearly explain what you did wrong, because most of the time, you did not do anything wrong. They do not have facts. They do not have a clean argument. They do not have a solid case. So they go sideways. They make vague little comments. They seem nice, but I don't know. There's just something off. I can't explain it. It's just a feeling. They try a little too hard. I'm not saying they're fake, but that is how it starts. Not with proof, not with truth, with atmosphere, a hint, a suggestion, a raised eyebrow, a little doubt dropped into the room. That is the whole strategy. They do not attack your character with facts. They cloud your image with implication. And that is what makes this kind of behavior so nasty. It is hard to pin down, hard to prove, hard to confront cleanly. By the time it gets back to you, it has usually passed through other people already. And if you try to call it out, they almost always have a built-in escape. I never said anything bad. You misunderstood me. I was just being honest. It was only an impression. And if you react too fast, you walk straight into the trap. Now you look emotional. Now you look defensive. Now you look like the problem. Meanwhile, they get to play innocent. That is why grounded people do not waste all their energy trying to chase down every vague comment and correct every blurry lie. Because the more frantic you become trying to fix every little whisper, the more it looks like they got under your skin. The smarter move is to see the game for what it is. They are trying to influence how others see you because they cannot manage how they feel around you. They want social backup for their insecurity. They want other people to share the suspicion, so they do not have to carry their discomfort alone. It is a very human move, but it is also a very small one. Strong people speak directly, or they step away cleanly. They do not need side comments and soft sabotage to make themselves feel bigger. Only insecure people do that. And here is something important to remember. Not everyone who talks behind your back has the power to damage you. A lot of people can read energy better than you think. A lot of people know the difference between real concern and quiet poison. A lot of people can tell when somebody is planting doubt because they cannot handle another person's presence. Yes, some people may be influenced. That happens. But quality people usually figure it out sooner or later. So your job is not to panic. Your job is not to start performing innocence. Your job is not to destroy your own dignity trying to put out every little fire that somebody else started out of insecurity. Your job is to stay clean, stay consistent, stay grounded, and do not help them dirty your name by making yourself look unstable. And if part of you still thinks maybe this is all in your head, the next sign usually makes it impossible to deny. This is the sign people have the hardest time hiding. You get good news, you hit a goal, you get recognized, you move forward. Something in your life opens up. Maybe it is a win at work. Maybe it is a personal breakthrough. Maybe it is a new opportunity. Maybe you just look lighter, stronger, happier, more confident than before. Everybody else congratulates you. The moment should feel easy, natural, good. Then you look at that one person. And there it is. The forced smile, the stiff face, the flat congrats, the quick subject change, the silence. Or worse, the little comment that cuts your win down to size. Oh, nice. That's not that hard to get. Probably just luck. Let's see how long that lasts. That right there tells you a lot. Because if this person only had a misunderstanding with you, your good news would not bother them this much. If they simply were not close to you, your success would not trigger that kind of reaction. But when your joy makes them tense, the issue is not your behavior. The issue is the comparison happening inside their head. Your success touches their sense of failure. Your joy touches their frustration. Your movement touches their stagnation. Your progress touches their fear of being left behind. And this is the sad part. Some people do not move through life like it is a personal path. They move through life like it is a secret scoreboard. So when you rise, they feel like they are losing, even if the two of you were never competing in the first place. That is why they cannot celebrate you honestly, not because your success hurt them, but because your success forces them to look at the gap between who they are and who they wish they were. If this kind of content helps you read people better, understand social energy more clearly, and protect your self-worth around toxic behavior, subscribe to the channel right now. Because this channel is not just about spotting other people's patterns, it is about making sure you do not lose yourself in the middle of them. And if you have ever seen someone's face change the moment you shared good news, comment one below. And here is the part you need to hold on to. Do not shrink your win because someone else cannot handle it. Do not whisper your joy because somebody else gets uncomfortable around it. Do not dim your light just to make insecure people feel less exposed. The people who truly care about you will never need you to be smaller so they can feel bigger. And that leads to the deeper question. Why do some people react so strongly to your presence, your value, and your progress in the first place? Now we get to the root. Why would somebody dislike you when you did nothing to them? Most of the time, the answer is not in you. It is in the unresolved part of them. A person who is truly secure does not need to hate people for no reason. A person who is at peace with themselves does not need to quietly dismiss, exclude, or reduce other people just to feel okay. When someone is genuinely solid inside, another person's confidence is not a threat. Another person's calm is not an insult. Another person's growth is not something they need to attack. It is only when insecurity, shame, comparison, disappointment, self-doubt, or buried frustration is sitting under the surface that people start reacting intensely to someone else's confidence, discipline, beauty, peace, momentum, or success. You become the mirror they do not want to look into. You remind them of what they still have not done. You remind them of qualities they never built. You remind them of courage they never used. You remind them of potential they left on the table. You remind them of a version of themselves they know they betrayed, and instead of sitting with that discomfort, instead of growing from it, instead of facing themselves honestly, they project it outward. They turn you into the problem. This is one of the most common human defense mechanisms there is. When people feel something painful they do not know how to process, they look for somewhere to dump it. A target, a name, a face, a person to hold responsible for the feeling they were already carrying. So in their mind, you become the reason they feel unsettled. But really, all you did was activate something that was already there. That is why you cannot fix this by being nicer. You cannot fix it by being softer. You cannot fix it by over-explaining. You cannot fix it by proving your good intentions. You are trying to solve with logic what was created by insecurity. And logic almost never wins against a wound somebody refuses to admit they have. A lot of people stay trapped here. They think if they are patient enough, humble enough, understanding enough, or emotionally intelligent enough, eventually the other person will come around. Sometimes that happens. But a lot of times, the truth is much colder than that. They do not want to understand you. They just want enough distance from you to protect the weak parts of their ego. And strangely enough, once you understand that, it frees you. Because then you stop carrying weight that was never yours. You stop taking their weird energy home and dissecting yourself for hours. You stop assuming their discomfort must mean you did something wrong, and the question changes. It stops being, how do I get them to like me? It becomes, how do I stop letting their inner war pull me into it? That is the better question, and the answer is where your power starts coming back. When people realize somebody dislikes them for no real reason, their first instinct is usually to fix it, to smooth things over, to clear the tension, to explain themselves, to make things normal again, to prove they are not a threat. But this is exactly where you need to stay sharp. Not every problem is yours to solve. Not every emotion other people have is your responsibility. And not everybody who turns cold toward you deserves more access to your effort. The first move is this. Stop chasing their approval. Do not become extra nice. Do not become extra easy. Do not become a one-person PR campaign just to make one insecure person feel less uncomfortable around you. The second move, do not internalize their reaction. Their coldness does not prove you are wrong. Their distance does not prove you are flawed. Their refusal to recognize you does not lower your actual value. You are looking at one person's reaction, not the truth about who you are. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Because the moment you mistake somebody's insecurity for a verdict on your worth, you hand them power they never earned. And the third move, the strongest one, is this. Keep being yourself. Do not lower your voice because someone gets irritated by your confidence. Do not shrink your ambition because someone is threatened by your progress. Do not hide your gifts because your presence makes somebody face their own stagnation. The second you start editing yourself to fit inside someone else's insecurity, you begin losing your center. At first it looks small. You speak a little less. You share a little less. You celebrate a little less. You show up a little more cautiously. You make yourself easier to ignore. And one day you realize you built an entire smaller version of yourself just to avoid triggering people who were never truly for you. That price is way too high. If you have ever made yourself smaller just to keep somebody else comfortable, comment 1 below. Now, handling this well does not mean becoming bitter. It does not mean getting revenge. It does not mean turning cold and shutting your heart down. Real strength looks different. Real strength is seeing clearly, keeping the right distance, not giving extra power to their reaction, and continuing to live your life with a straight back, a calm nervous system, and a grounded sense of self. That is power. Not loud power, not performative power, not fake confidence, quiet self-respect, steady energy, clean boundaries, and once you get there, you reach the most important part of this whole message. Not everyone who dislikes you has a valid reason. Not everyone who turns cold toward you is reacting to something you did wrong. And not every bad vibe thrown your way is something you need to fix. Some people are simply triggered by your presence. You remind them of something inside themselves they do not want to face. So instead of looking inward, they push outward. They pull back their warmth. They avoid your eyes. They dismiss your value. They plant doubt. They tense up when you win. Not because you are bad, but because you hit a weak spot in them. Once you really understand that, you stop asking the old question, where did I go wrong? And you start asking the right one. Why am I letting their reaction decide how I see myself? That is a major shift in maturity. You do not need everybody to like you. You do not need everybody to understand you. You do not need to twist yourself into a softer, safer, easier to handle version just to buy fake peace. You need clarity. Enough clarity to know the difference between real feedback and insecurity-driven reaction. You need calm. Enough calm to stop picking up every weird attitude people throw at you and turning it into evidence against yourself. You need strength. Enough strength to stop handing the steering wheel of your emotions to people who are still fighting themselves. And that is real freedom. Not when everybody approves of you, but when the disapproval of a few people no longer has the power to make you turn against yourself. If you want more content that helps you read people more clearly, protect your value more fiercely, and stop getting pulled around by manipulation, insecurity, and toxic social dynamics, subscribe to the channel. Because here, we do not just talk about other people. We learn how to become steadier, clearer, harder to manipulate, harder to shake, and more grounded in who we are. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. And remember this. When someone hates you for no clear reason, do not rush to search for the flaw in yourself. A lot of the time, the thing they are fighting was never really you.